If you haven't, I want to introduce him to you. He is running for the Texas State Senate against current incumbent Senator Lois Colford. His name is Mr. Josh Tutt, and he will obviously be telling you more. Yeah, let's hear it for Mr. Tutt. He will tell you more about himself, but we do have some info cards, website, and I know Josh will not be here until he's answered every question you have and any questions that your family certainly has as well. So our plan is to allow Josh to make some opening remarks and then open it up to your questions. And then after that, some of you might want to visit with Josh a little bit more, but we're going to move on into our kind of business meeting portion and then give you the opportunity to tell us what's on your mind and what you're thinking about. Give you the opportunity to give you some updates in terms of where we're planning and what we're doing. Yeah, does that sound reasonable? Hopefully. Okay. Get whatever you want, please, and don't worry about Bill. I'm taking care of that. Okay? So please enjoy the food. So I want to have him introduce a little bit more about himself. But his name is Mr. Josh Tutt. Let's hear it for Josh.
Howdy everyone, can y'all hear me okay? Am I projecting loud enough? I don't want to bother everyone downstairs, so can y'all hear me? Okay, good. So nice to meet everybody. Howdy, my name is Josh Tutt, as Joe said, thank you for the introduction. And I am your Democratic nominee for Texas State Senate District 18. So I decided to run for office when I woke up cold in my bed last February during the Texas blackout. When the power came back on, I just Googled it, how to run for office in Texas, because I was upset. I was fed up, and I knew that somebody had to do something about this. And I knew that we couldn't count on the same old people who've been in office for 2 decades or more to be the ones to do something about it. We've already had the opportunity, and they passed it up, and again, and again. I'm running for office for a lot of reasons. I want to modernize our grids, that way we have a reliable energy grid that can manage our growing population. Forget winter storms for a second. Our population is just growing rapidly, and we want an energy grid that's robust and we're being proud of, and that can handle all of us here in Texas. And that's going to need a diverse portfolio of energy sources, and that's going to need the ability to compete in a broader energy market. I think that one of the assets of connecting to national grids would be allowing us to compete in that energy market, sell the excess wind energy we produce in West Texas across state lines when it's profitable. Maybe that would be one way that we can combat these skyrocketing utility bills that most Texans have after the winter storm. I would like to, people ask what is the biggest thing that I want to do. I want to expand Medicaid in Texas. I want to make it so that way we can bring our federal income tax dollars. We don't like having a state income tax in Texas. We're really sure about not having one of those. So why aren't we equally as enthusiastic about bringing our federal income tax dollars back home, taking care of our neighbors? We have the highest rate of uninsured citizens and children of any state in the nation, both raw number and percentage-wise. We have the objectively worst funded mental health care system of any state, unfortunately. One of the highest rates of maternal mortality rates, and the highest rate of rural hospital closures out of any state. And I live in Burleson County. It's a little bit more rural than even Victoria County here. It takes me 30 minutes in any direction to get to the closest hospital. In an emergency, that just doesn't cut it. On my little tiny dirt road, I got my fingers crossed that the EMS might know where I live. And we've got a lot of room for improvement in the world of healthcare, especially rural healthcare. So many times in healthcare systems, hospitals don't have funding. First thing to go is going to be a maternity ward and prenatal care services. And then, sometimes hospitals have to just close. They don't have the ability, the funds, the staff to operate in rural places. And so I want to do something about that. Expanding Medicaid is one of the biggest things that we can do to bring money in that will help support. We're obviously not succeeding in several key metrics, so let's make some progress. And I think that's reasonable. Now, before I decided to run for office, I picked those 3 platform policies by talking with folks in Belleville, in the Grange, in Brenham, which my district was a little smaller when I first started out before redistricting. And then that's how I decided on my priorities here. But even before I ever ran for office, my priorities have always been things like voting rights, being a volunteer deputy registrar to help people get registered on campus, or advocating for the LGBT community. with some luck, I will be the first openly LGBT state senator in Texas history. That's kind of cool, isn't it? But I can't think of a better foil, a better competitor for Senator Lois Coulter and her long history of anti-trans legislation, the 2017 bathroom bills, the sports bans of this latest session, and the onslaught of bills that we're going to see this next session unless we stop them. And the best way to stop them is by removing them from those offices. So those are the things that I've been always invested in. Since starting on the trail, I was cautioned early on to avoid talking about things that were incendiary like abortion rights. And then Roe versus Wade was overturned, and I refused to be quiet about it. I think that defending bodily autonomy, I think that it demands that we respect somebody's choice to make medical decisions with themselves and their doctor, not with meddlesome lawmakers. Those are a few thoughts that I have, and I know that if I have anybody here from Victoria locally who might not be on board with that whole platform, I want to let you know that my biggest interest is reducing unwanted pregnancies to begin with. There's a lot of things that we can do to reduce unwanted or unplanned pregnancies from ever happening in the first place, like increasing health care coverage for new parents, increasing parental leave, and support healthcare needs for children, for infants, especially ones that might need that prenatal care. Doing things like that, advocating for age-appropriate, consent-based sex education, access to contraceptives, those kinds of things help to reduce unwanted pregnancies to begin with. So if we really want to reduce the number of abortions happening, let's do things that are proven to work. Because I thought that bans didn't stop anything. So why don't we advocate for things that people in the community say? Focus on things like revitalizing downtown communities by supporting small businesses. In fact, in District 18, four top counties in the state for beef deductions, for beef catch. Why don't we do things that help our neighbors against a beef industry that has gotten monopolized by that supply chain, and do things that actually help our neighbors, rather than wasting time in our very limited legislative sessions with things like anti-trans bathroom bills that help nobody, that hurt lots of children. Those are a few of my thoughts. I want to focus on things that are actually going to tangibly help people. I want to listen. I work in IT and technical support. That's what I do for a living. Currently working for the Texas A&M Forest Service. So my inner Boy Scout's pretty happy because I get to be tech support for Smokey Bear. It works very well for me, and it's fulfilling. I like helping people, and it gets a little bit of a conservation kick too. And what I know from that, what my career teaches me, is that I am not an expert in everything. I'm going to, at any given moment, have to research a lot of things. I'm going to have to rely on experts and folks who know more than I do. And that's a trait that we want our lawmakers to have. In college, I worked on a crisis hotline, put in over 1,000 hours as a volunteer and as a trainer for a crisis hotline on campus, security-led operation, because it's important to know how to listen. And I think that's something that we should be able to expect from our lawmakers. Somebody who's there to listen and actually knows what that means. Isn't getting ready with what they want to come out of their mouth next. They're actually here to listen to what you have to say. And I try my hardest to be that kind of person. I decided once more to run for office when I woke up cold in my bed and realized that somebody had to do something about it. I know that most of the time our elected officials, especially in rural Texas, run unopposed. They get their seats back for free. There's no accountability in that. There's no real options. What's the point of an election? There's only one candidate. And I wanted to have a choice for once. And I thought that we, all of us, even the folks who didn't want to join us today, should have a choice on their ballot for once. And when I realized that no one else was going to do it, I said, I am somebody. I guess I'm going to do it. And that's what brought me here to y'all today. I'm a first-time candidate, but that wasn't clear. And I've had a hell of a time to get to campaign and visit and go to places all over our part of Texas that I've never been to before. Cinco de Mayo in Goliad, Texas, is a little bit different because that's the birthplace of General Zaragoza, where that is commemorated. Getting to go down to Turkey Fest in Cuero, or to the Come and Take It Festival in Gonzales, and things like that. I just took the tour at the Smetzel Brewery in China just because it was fun, you know, and getting to go and see parts of the state that I never would have adventured to before, and meet people all over. I was just talking with folks in Fort Bend County today, and about teacher earlier this week in Somerville, Texas, or my hometown in Burleson County, special education teacher, and talked about all of the additional duties that they have on top of their plate and the lack of support that helps them to meet those goals. So we continuously put things on top of our teachers without recognizing all this extra weight, without actually making the investment we need to in the future that they are the guardians of. I'm pretty good at monologuing. I should have known I would have been a politician. So that's a lot about my platform, what motivated me to run. I can ramble on about what we're up against and the rest of the things I'm for. I do have a thorough platform on my website. I was very long-winded. I wrote out my thoughts on why I feel the way that I do. And I've got all kinds of contact info. I've got a cell phone number on my website. Just text me if you want to talk. I'm happy to hear from each of you. If anyone has questions, I will be here all night. And it's my pleasure to meet you all today.
Some of you are getting your food. Please get your food. That's great. We're going to have Josh take a sip of water. He's going to sit down and we're going to get to your questions and your concerns. If some of you would like to come a little closer, you certainly can.
Does anybody have any questions? I'd love to hear what y'all's concerns are. Texas has been in the headlines a lot lately for some of the worst reasons. What do y'all have in mind?
So it's going to be reversed, all black or white. If you see anything needs changing, or rather the verbiage be different, let me know. I'm going to order Monday. Okay. I'm going black so it looks like a Bethel sign. Okay. Perfect. Have y'all signed in?
So the question is, how can we best help make Texas a better place for young folks, for younger generations? And my answer is run for office. Did you know that you only have to be 21 to run for state legislature? Did you know there's nobody running for Democrat in Victoria County right now in the state legislature? Yeah, so somebody's got to do it. Have you ever thought about it? And then it's not to put you on the spot, a little bit. But unfortunately, when you go and you vote, when y'all vote, if everyone here is in Victoria County, I know Randall is not, but for everyone who's in Victoria County, when you go to vote, you will realize that there is nobody running against, I believe it's the incumbent, against the Republican candidate for Texas House. I forget the district number here in Victoria County. Against Jeannie Morris. And so, I don't know much about them, that's not my race. But if you wanted to have a choice, unfortunately you won't this November. Nobody is running against her. And if our elections are best preserved by having these choices and getting to make our voices be heard, someone's got to run for office. That's what motivated me to run. Maybe someone here will be the one to run for office in the future. Again, you only have to be 21, have lived in the district for like 2 years. It is, if you run as a Democrat, it's $700 to get on the ballot, but I promise I will personally help you raise that money. We need more folks to run for office, and there's no reason why the young folks need to wait for permission. So I just turned 30 last month. So I was, unfortunately I'm not, under 30 age bracket that I used to be. I could check a different box on those forms now. But that's the other side of millennial. I would still be the first millennial in the state senate ever. The current youngest is Senator Nathan Johnson, who's 45. The average age in the state senate is, I think, 67 years old. And I'm not to say that some of the older members who county don't have great things to contribute, but when you consider how long that they've been there in the legislature, holding on to power, my opponent, Senator Colker, has been in the legislature since the year 2000, and that's been a minute. So I think it's time to try something new. If we want to see progress, we can't keep going with the same old, and we don't get to change out who our legislators are unless we run against them. Now we get the first person to ask for the rest of Thank you.
All right, other questions? We got one over here.
Gotcha. So you actually hit on a few of my secret top priorities. I think the actual biggest threats facing Texas right now, there's so much going on, but our biggest threats are the fact that our population is growing rapidly and we're not expanding any of our infrastructure prepared for it. On our roads, healthcare, schools, our energy, our water resources, we're not prepared. And so if we see drought like Colorado's been seeing this year, which we've had severe drought for a while, but if it were to be more acute, we can have some serious consequences if we're not prepared. Like I said earlier, a good old-fashioned Eagle Scout. I want to be prepared. I want to plan ahead with these things. The best disaster response is preparedness and mitigation. Is my thought. So in Burleson County, a big problem is I remember the full name, that's the Vista Ridge Water Project. It's a project out of the San Antonio, Mexico area that's basically siphoning groundwater out from homeowners. I live on a well, and so the threat of the water in my well just dropping below where the pump can reach is something on my mind a lot. What can I do to preserve groundwater? That way my sink has water. I'm not on the city line. And so that's something that I really want to make sure that we have good conservation practices in any way that we can make sure that city or manufacturing industry is practicing good water conservation. I want to do a couple things like supporting better building codes. We're currently on 2015 codes, and the latest codes have vast improvements in the state for new construction, for energy conservation. We talk a lot about, since the winter storm, increasing generation and producing more energy. But what if we reduce our consumption? That's good old-fashioned conservation. I thought that was the kind of environmentalism that was all American, right? And so I would advocate for more energy and resource conservation practices. I want to make sure that homeowners and residents, people are being prioritized rather than businesses coming in to siphon water to bottle out from under our land. And I may not have been in the meat production industry myself, but my family and I, we have a little tiny vineyard. It's mostly an expensive gardening hobby at this point. It hasn't been super productive yet, but that's because we had the big freeze that nearly killed half of it. And then it rained so much, and it resulted in kind of drowning in the weeds. This year, with the heat and the drought, it's been difficult. We're just happy the vineyard is still alive, much less productive or profitable or anything like that. But I know that's the case everywhere. I've talked to other wine grape growers in Central Texas. We have more of them than y'all think, probably. I've always been happy to find them wherever I go. It's been a rough few years, and I'm sure, and I know it's been rough for folks with cattle and other livestock because drought means grass doesn't grow, which means you have to get paid, which raises prices, and I know that's been expensive. And it won't be long before the price of milk and beef on the shelf continues to go up. It already does. But and those are things that that's natural phenomena because of severe drought, and we need to be prepared for those things with good planning and listening to agriculture and advocates for water rights and things like that. It's kind of a wandering answer, but I think that's some of the most important things that we need to be prepared for. So thank you for asking. Did that answer the question? Very good. So any other questions? Yeah.
You mentioned something about looking up the speed for years I've heard George Bush,
I think that our neighbors are struggling in a lot of ways, some more than others, of course. And I think that being a bit more of a neighborly place, looking out for each other. Because I would love to hear y'all's experiences if you're okay sharing about the blackout. Because I always ask wherever I go, because everyone had an arduous time with that. I had somebody today who didn't want to talk about it because she was already tearing up just thinking about her experience. I don't know her story because I couldn't press her to ask to share it. But for me, I'm just fortunate that my mother-in-law across the way, same property, had a wood-burning fireplace, and I'd been a good son-in-law and stocked up her wood stocks for that winter. Because otherwise we would not have had heat that entire day. We were only out of power for one day, but that was long enough for our pipes to break in 3 or 4 places. And then we didn't have water for a week while it stayed frozen at sub-freezing temperatures. So it was difficult. When the power's out, like that, the internet goes out, and you can't work from home, you can't talk to people, you can't check to see what's going on. So I make it kind of a glib remark about when power came back on. I Googled how to run for office, but I'm being serious. I did not have connection to the outside world during that time. And that was more severe than it needed to be because we have prioritized through our deregulation profits over people in our energy industry. And I want to make sure, when I go to talk to our folks in Port Lavaca and down on the coast, they've talked to me about desalinization or about clam harvesting or things like that. And that's a complicated relationship between industry that's vital and operates there on the coast and protecting and preserving our environment, those fragile ecosystems there. We need a government that can look out for the people and for the long-term health of our community, not just the. And I've always thought it's cute that we advertise that it's such a great place for business, and then we get upset about all the California businesses that suddenly operate here. And I feel like when you invite them in the door, you get mad when they thought I have. Thank you for asking.
Other questions?
I know I've gotten to meet several of y'all before. If I haven't gotten to meet any yet, I would love to shake each of your hands.
Please got a question.
Yes, sir. I know you said that we're being asking for health care. What exactly?
The beef. All right, thank you. It's the silverware. I don't know. Maybe you don't get any, but this is pretty sizzling to one that.
I hope this doesn't sound like a half and a partial answer, but honestly, just stopping the attacks and the harm would do so much. And it's aggressive. It is political violence. It is causing people in my community to make active plans or have already left the state. And we have to stop the harm. I would like to do other things, like amend the state constitution, so that way technically the state constitution still bans same-sex marriage. The only thing stopping that from being in effect is the version of L.B. Hodges. And we know how tenuous a Supreme Court decision can be as of late. So I want to change that and make sure that our Constitution is not discriminating against my family. So I would like to proactively do some things of that nature. And we are going to see a Texas version of Florida's no-pay bills this next session. And if we don't have the right people there to stop it, like I said, stopping having defenders, a defense against these things I know that we are a small part of the community by number, but I deserve to be protected by our law.
Laws and policies against genuine religious liberty. I'm a white Christian nationalist, and I want to make everybody,
the ideology and specific policy comes to mind right now. Long story short, I want to vigilantly protect the separation of church and state. Just last night, actually, I was at a group in Houston, so they go by Secular Houston, which is a bit of a grenade, certain circles to use language like that. But I've been endorsed by them because of my insistence on defending separation of church and state. Not using my position, if I'm so lucky, would not be using it to advocate for my faith or my religion to be preferred in any different treatment from anyone else's, or perhaps their absence of their practice religion. Everybody should be welcome here. And one way that I would advocate for that is I really want to work on some campaign finance reforms, things that make it easier for little candidates like me to run all over the place. I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure if term limits are the best possible way to deal with some of our long-term officials. Maybe if we made it easier for people to challenge, to run against them, and to give us that choice that we're so often denied. Right now, in 2022, 50 out of the 181 seats in our legislature, that's almost a third, it's something over a quarter, are unopposed. They have nobody running against them. It's Republican incumbents or candidates with no Democratic challenger. They've already won. They don't have to do any work this November. They might, but they don't have to, and unless we run against them. And so I want to work on structurally make things easier for people to run for office, especially challengers against incumbents. I think those are some, and I'd even like to make things that probably help independent and third parties. Because maybe if it wasn't such a strict two-party system, we'd get more ideas out there and more of a mandate to work together for once. So those are some thoughts. That's the policy that I think that would help preserve people from all backgrounds. We let people from all backgrounds be in the government.
I like what you have to say there. Something I have talked about in this situation, but one thing I've done, I think we need to expand the number of representatives. You have fewer people represented by, like instead of having generally voting, ample time in the legislature, make it possible that instead of how many people are represented by you in this district? I don't know.
945,000, I believe it is. It's just shy of 1 million people that I got to shake hands with.
Why is it having set up there, each senator, each representative represented more like 100,000 instead of 900,000?
So our 150 state representatives, that's about how many they manage. It's a little over 100, I think it's like 170,000. And so the senators, the upper chamber, there's only 31, so we divide the population by 31, and that's how we get our population, our districts and sizes.
But I still
Yeah.
think, in fact, it's bigger, we need to expand the number of representatives, not only in our state legislature, but on the national level too. Only the city is fixed by Congress, mandate. The representatives in the House of Representatives are all, adopted the current number of representatives and added a couple here or there, but that's something.
Yeah, I haven't seen that proposed a lot, but I like the idea of making sure that people can be closer and more easily connected with their representatives. I think that's important. I think everyone should hear from their candidates and from their officials. I don't know if anybody here has had the chance to listen to any of their current elected officials. I'm not saying that I know at least my opponent, comes out and talks to people, at least her supporters. I assume she gets out in the community. I don't watch her that closely. I'm busy running my own campaign. And that's good that she gets out, that I'm out here. You should be able to talk to both of us and any other candidates you got. Since I do work full-time, I've had to decline a lot of offers to come to speak to groups. And it's difficult to not be there and to not be able to make that connection when somebody wants to hear from me. I think it was 2 weeks back. fact, just this Thursday, a retired teachers group wanted to speak with me. They said that they hadn't heard from Senator Colmers before, before in years past, and so they were inviting me to come and speak, me individually, which I'm always honored by that. But it was in the middle of my work day, and I've already used all my PTO hours. I don't have any left. I used them all campaigning. My husband's kind of mad about that. But what I did instead is I talked to them and I got them, I wrote a letter to kind of introduce myself because they still deserved a little bit of attention. You know, I can write an email at midnight, you know, I don't need to be there in person and work day for that. So I have managed to find ways around and deal with the scheduling conflicts that I had. And it's a challenge. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
I would love to ask any plans or thoughts you have about ways to better support public schools while in education.
Of course. When I first started running, I thought, okay, so the question was how to support public education, public schools, teachers, this is one of my top priorities, but for the reason that it's what voters, my neighbors told me were our top priorities, especially in rural communities. The public school, sometimes it's just one school, is the beating heart of the community. I live in little bitty Snook, Texas, outside of Somerville, Caldwell-ish. They've got the one whole school, and that's their Friday night lights are just as intense as anyone else. It's half the newspaper every week, and I share that because that is our community, and so that's why it's important. What I want to do to actually answer your question is I want to basically help provide better funding. Most of our problems in education, it sounds lazy, but most of these problems can be solved by better funding. Better teacher pay, and not just pay, but benefits. I've heard some horror stories about the things that teachers have had to go without because their health care benefits are just the worst. The retired teachers groups are very politically active. They haven't gotten cost of living adjustments or good health care benefits in their retirement in decades. So getting supplies for teachers. I thought the community teachers were paying out of pocket for supplies. You know, stuff like water bottles and granola bars. So next time that there's a shooting and they're on lockdown, they have like snacks for the kids to keep them quiet with. So teachers paying out of pockets for these things. Forget the construction paper and the Kleenex. Teachers are footing the bill for so much in our communities out of their own pockets. And we can definitely get a better deal by, for supplies, for technology, for support staff. I'm told that stuff like home monitors or somebody to run the copy machine. So that way teachers don't have to come in on a Saturday to just make copies.